The gameplay trailer for Chapter 4 just came out, but there's a lot of secrets you probably missed. So from our queso looking on new ally to Kissy being repaired with Huggy, here's every secret in the Chapter 4 gameplay trailer. The first scene we see is Doe from Doey, the Dough Man falling down in front of dead employees hung up with what sounds like Doey's theme playing in the background. Then Poppy says,
"Down here, it's not like anything you've seen above. It's hell."
After this, we see a prison area that we saw in the Steam screenshots with the same room we saw in the Doctor trailer in the back. We then cut to us seeing a small prison section which seems to have had kids in it, as implied by the chalk drawings on the floor and the hopscotch boxes. But in the next scene, we actually see a new secret antagonist. If we zoom in on the room behind the gate, we see something move in front of the light, seemingly coming from the ceiling, and because it's clearly being hidden from us, I doubt it's one of the antagonists we've seen so far. Then we see our first interaction with the Doctor in a padded room with him saying,
"Now what's this?"
But because of our perspective, I assume that we are being held up to the screen for the Doctor to see before being slammed back down. Then we see the trash disposal area that we saw in the first teaser trailer with our new hand equipped, which is a pink hand that looks similar to the Grab Pack 2.0 we got in Chapter 3. But after this, we hear what seems to be Doey the Doughman say,
"They call him the Doctor. He works with the prototype. Commands everything down here."
While we see us pick up our new grab pack from a dead employee in what seems to be an employee break room as implied from the desks and seats. We then see another prison room with poppy gas flowing from the pipes above before cutting to our first Yarnaby scene in a locker room. But after that, we see what I think is the most lore-packed scene in the trailer. This painting shows the smiling critters, Hoppy Hopscotch, Crafty Corn, and Bobby Bear Hug, and other toys being protected by two orange and yellow arms, which we know to be Doey's with text around them saying Safe Haven, which implies that Doey is providing them a safe haven. But strangely enough, these toys are frowning and saying things like, "I'm scared, but also we are safe," implying that they don't have much of an option. We also hear Doey say,
"Hunting us, starving us,"
which implies that Doey is actually protecting these toys from what is implied to be Yarnaby, as he is on screen when Doey says,
"Hunting us."
Another small detail in the painting is Poppy being X'd out in the background, implying they don't like her or thought she was dead. But moving on, we then see a parkour scene with green water on the bottom, possibly being a mutated version of the liquid poppy gas we saw in Chapter 3. After this, we see how large Yarnaby actually is, and even what his mechanics are, which as we expected seems to be roaming AI, which means he will be chasing us down throughout the whole chapter. We then see a sewer-like area with splats of Doey on the ground, but because in the background Harley was saying,
"There are no places you can hide."
I expect that this is where we will meet Doey, because there are no large threats or blood everywhere, but simply a sewer. We then see the Doctor's robot panning out to tons of other robots, which will be controlled by the Doctor later on in the trailer. We also see on the washing machines beside him eyes with blood in the middle, which we'll cover later on. We then see us seemingly hiding with Kissy and Poppy, with Kissy's arm being around us, which first of all is confirmation that Kissy is alive, but second means that we will be hiding from what seems to be the Doctor, because we hear him say,
"I've got something special and more."
which could either be referring to him wanting to kill us or him wanting to experiment on us, both of which suck. We then see another parkour section across electrified water, but what's interesting is that our grab pack now absorbs electricity, possibly making us jump larger distances. We then see two scenes showing two of the Doctor's bodies, which, judging by how we are looking at them, seems to have weeping angel mechanics like Miss Delight, but instead of there just being one, there's a bunch. However, do you remember that blood on the eye? Well, I think that blood and the red eye we see in the Yarnaby trailer actually indicate when the Doctor's bodies are going to attack us, which would flash when we are not looking at them. After this, we see us fending off the nightmare critters with our flare gun, and thankfully, it seems like they won't one-shot us as implied by the red around the screen. But then we see the most disturbing scene yet, with us crawling through what looks like to be the employees' last stand against the toys in a trench area with barbed wire and spears, and judging by how they are all dead, I doubt they lasted very long. We then see a padded room that looks similar to the playhouse with a prison door opening, which could be how we meet possibly Pianosaurus or even Yarnaby, while the Doctor says,
"Let's make a game of you."
After this, we see the stupid little nightmare critters crawling towards us, right before we see Poppy and Kissy begging to most likely Doey or Ollie to let us into a locked-off room, which is more than likely the safe haven the mural refers to. A secret detail we see in this, though, is on Kissy. We see dark blue fur and body parts sewn on her head and torso, which means only only one thing. Huggy's dead body was used to repair Kissy, which opens a new can of worms that I'll talk about later. We then see either a jump scare or a cutscene of Pianosaurus chasing us down with Ollie screaming.
He's outside!
Which implies he was outside of wherever we were at and will be hunting us like Yarnaby. After this, we see us enter a decontamination room, which from my guess will be at the start of the game. After this, we see a kitchen with body bags, which because we know the toys were starving makes sense. We also see dough splats on the floor, which implies Doey could be directing us to this room. We then see a large Baba Chops jump scare us. But after that, strangely enough, we see a smaller Yarnaby chasing us down. This Yarnaby is at least half the size of the other one, which could either mean he can shrink down or there's multiple Yarnabys. We then hear Doey say,
I failed you.
which Poppy responds to saying,
Lied to me!
possibly meaning that Doey betrays us later in the chapter. This is said over the room we saw earlier in the trailer with the door opening to a white glow, possibly meaning that behind the door the doctor or the prototype is waiting for us. After this, we see the final scene of the trailer with Doughy the Doughman in his full case. Oh glory, I mean maybe he spent too long in that kitchen. Anyways, on his dad bod, we see the orange, yellow, and red hands we saw in all of Mob's previous teasers for Chapter 4, with each color stretching out to the rest of his body. He then puts on his hat and says,
Hiya there, pal.
before reaching out his hand and saying,
Follow me.
this definitely means that Doughy the Doughman will be our new ally in Chapter 4, which is even implied in the description, which says a brand new ally joins you. But that's it for the gameplay trailer, so let's theorize. So we know from this there are two major villains, being the Doctor as the main final boss, and Yarnaby, or maybe Yarnabys, as the main roaming villain. We also know that the mini antagonists will be Pianosaurus, the nightmare critters, whatever this moving thing was, and the Doctor's weeping angel drones. Past the villains, we also know we will see Ollie, Kissy, Poppy, and Doey this chapter on our side. However, from the gameplay trailer's hints towards a safe haven, Poppy and Kissy banging on a door, and the one Ollie voice line we got, we know that there will most likely be an actual safe haven for us in Chapter 4, where we might see the bigger bodies of the toys we see in the painting, and also will be where we will be introduced to Doey. From my guess, this safe haven will be a large connected area with the rooms in the gameplay trailer that have Doey's little dough blobs everywhere, which imply he was walking through there. However, I don't think this safe haven will be safe for very long, because in the trailer we hear Doey apologize and Poppy say that he betrayed us, which most likely means that Doey betrayed us and Poppy, and more than likely ratted us out for food or something like that. This could be the reason why Mob is hyping him up so much as the picture and the main character of Chapter 4. What if Doey will betray us and will actually be working for Harley? Now I'm gonna speculate for a bit here. Let's look at the way Kissy looks in this scene. She has rough stitching and belts around her like Dog Day had in Chapter 3. But this raises the question, who repaired Kissy? Why would the Doctor do it? I mean, clearly Kissy still has her brain intact and still wants to help us, implying that somebody on our side was the one who repaired Kissy. So, what if Doughy the Doughman was actually the person that stitched up Kissy and was able to save her? This would be why we would even go to his safe haven in the first place and not directly to the prototype. However, you know how I said it is similar to Dog Day? Well, what if Doey actually was the person who hung Dog Day in the play care? Now, this isn't far-fetched. We know that in this chapter, we will see extensions of the play care as seen in the vault and Doctor scenes. And beyond that, we also know that Doey would have had to get Huggy's dead body in Chapter 1 to even do this, which means he would have to have access to the rest of the factory. We also have no current explanation on who hung Dog Day up in the play care. We know Catnap was too big and the prototype would struggle with maneuvering around there, so it would make sense for an intelligent Doey creature to do it for him. This could also mean that Doey could have been working with Harley and the prototype this entire time, which is how he got Huggy and Kissy's body in the first place, and might even be the reason why the toys are frowning in the large picture. From my guess, when we figure this all out, we will tell Poppy, but Doey will overhear us and turn us into Harley, leading to the rest of the chapter where we will be alone and avoiding Harley and the rest of the toys. But what do you guys think? Leave your theories in the comments below and like and subscribe.